Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Dropkick District. My name is Kyle, and today we are going to run through some NXT Vengeance Day predictions. It's not going to be too long of a video. We're kind of going to every match, say who I think's going to win, who might win, all that jazz. Talk about the match, the feud, what could come after it, what's led to it. So, up first, we don't know the match order. However, we're going to go with Tony D'Angelo versus Dion Lennox. And it is a parking lot brawl. And just preface this by saying quite a lot of this card, there is stipulations, which is quite fun. It's something that I think NXT does do very well compared to the main roster in a way. NXT does have a lot of matches a lot of the time that do have stipulations, and even weekly on Tuesdays. If you don't watch NXT, I would recommend it. It's just a quality show. And I feel like a lot of the time it works, but it's very chaotic. Stuff just kind of gets flown around. It's perfect. There's big fights, there's brawls, there's stories. It's great. But Tony D versus Dion Lennox, and personally, I'm not a big fan of this whole Tony D'Angelo thing, right? He kind of returned to the whole mysterious gimmick. But like, when he disappeared, it was like I don't want to say died, but he kind of had a blackout thing after the feud with Channing Stacks Lorenzo. It's a bit weird as the mob leader into this, whatever the gimmick is. His whole thing's just kind of taking down Dark State. Okay, he costed them the tag titles last week. The Vanity Project won that, which was great for them. But I'm still not hooked on the Tony thing, and I do think he's going to win this. However, Dion Lennox is someone that I have said before on previous channels that I do think he could be a top star in NXT because I think the men's division right now, if you look at who could be leaving to the main roster, your Ethan Page, your Ricky Saints, those tough guys, Obafemi's already gone, Trick's gone. Okay, and this is the worry as an NXT fan that there's not really any guys that you think are going to go, hey, you know what? They're going to go into the world title picture and it's going to be entertaining. I do think obviously you have to have time. Like Enzo LaFleur, he looks great. Not Enzo LaFleur. You know what I mean, right? He looks sensational. He could be a great talent on NXT. Definitely can see him in that title picture. There is guys there that are going to go into that title picture, and it will take time to develop the character and be put in the right spot and get the push. There's no one right now that you think, hey, that's going to shoot into it. There's a few guys like Keanu Carver. There was a no ladder match. They showed up. They were great. Definitely will be in that picture in a short period of time, maybe following Stand and Deliver. Dion Lennox is one of those guys that I do think could definitely be in the world title picture in due time. I do think he's going to lose to Tony D though in this parking lot. But obviously, Dark State could get involved. There could be something like that. They kind of group on him and have the numbers game because I assume the parking lot brawl means there is, no rules. But if I had to pick someone, I think Tony is going to win. I just think his whole gimmicks taking down Dark State. If part of your gimmick's taking down Dark State and then you get a one-on-one match with someone from Dark State and don't win, your gimmick's not working. It's not kind of. I get there's a storyline, maybe effort to stand and deliver, but we're running out of time, guys. It's like a month away from stand and deliver. I believe it's maybe on the 7th. I think it's the week before Mania this year, which I like, but I do also like it on Mania weekend because as a UK fan, stand and delivers at like 4 o'clock, which runs till like 7. And then, from 7 till 1 a.m., we'd have a bit of time to chill. You know what I mean? But I do think Tony takes this. But speaking of Dark State, just a quick little bone to throw out there for any of my gamers that play WWE 2K26 has just came out. Dark State aren't involved, all right? And they said there was 400 slots now for superstars. But if you're a fan and you're into it, then you will know there's like the Bronze Breaker and CM Punk, but Bret Hart and R-Truth is like Jey Uso, which I guess part of the stories in like the Island of My Rise is a funny thing. But when you've got guys that are being pushed on NXT and they're not making it into the game, and I don't mean no offense to certain people, like Jelly Roll's getting in there, I feel like a lot of it is painted more towards casuals. And I do think it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, they had a DLC pack, which, you can pay for at the start of the game. You can buy a season pass, costs more money. But one of them was just Pat McAfee and his friends. Okay, I'm a wrestling fan. I don't like Pat McAfee. I don't watch his podcast. I don't know who his friends are. If an incentive for me pre-ordering the game is to pay an extra £20 or $20 for any Americans watching this to get all the DLC packs that include wrestlers and old wrestlers and new wrestlers that might have joined or they're from NXT, I don't want that to go towards a pack of people I don't know I'm never going to use. Because I didn't use any of them. Not the 5, not the 6, however many there was. I didn't use it. But that's just my only little bone to pick. They have just announced the Hardys are in this year's game. I believe on a ringside pass they've added a Battle Pass S kind of thing now instead of having direct DLC packs. You've got like Battle Pass. It's a little bit, but it is what it is. We'll still pay for the game. I didn't get the Ultimate Edition this year because it's a bit of a rip-off. You don't really, it's not worth the money. But yeah, I'm picking Tony D'Angelo to beat Dion Lennox. Unfortunately, I would like Dion Lennox to win so he can get a little push towards the world title scene. Up next, we have got the Glamour. Blake Monroe taking on Miss Parker in a street fight. I mean, personally, I think this feud has been very good. I've enjoyed it. I'm a fan of this feud. I'm excited for it. I don't know which way it goes. I think this is one of those matches where I'm not shocked if either competitor wins. It's going to be vicious. We know Mariah May in AEW did have some bangers when it came to matches with no DQ. I know WWE is a little softer than AEW. However, I could still see some things coming out here. I'd like to see maybe the mirror involved. Maybe we'll get some Maybelline, a little bit of promo in there. But I think Blake Monroe's going to win this. Personally, I think that's just who you put your money on. She's a massive star. She's big in AEW. I'm not sure why she's kind of been thrown around in NXT and not had anything to do. She'd have a North American title reign, which was cut short by a botch with a pinfall. And since then, Saturday not known what to do. They kind of panicked, and it's a bit shocking that they didn't know where to go straight away. I understand not having Blake win it straight back because that'd be a little bit silly because you've got to play it off like it's intended for people who maybe didn't notice that there was a botch. But we all know there was a botch. I think Jada Parker's a great talent. Blake Monroe's a great talent. I think if you're picking which one's going to go to the main roster first, it's probably Blake Monroe, which could happen after Stand and Deliver. So, this is the way maybe Blake wins this. And then they have a feud that still goes into Stand and Deliver, and Jada goes over there, and Blake goes to the main roster. I do think the women's main roster could do with some additional star power and some new people coming in. Like when Roxanne came through, she kind of broke the ice. Tiffany did the same thing. They came in, they set it alight. And I think that's what the likes of Sol Ruka's going to do. Blake Monroe could do. Jada Parker could do. Kalani Jordan could do. There's so many great women stars in NXT more than the men in a sense. I think the women are definitely have a lot more potential than the men do at times. There's more stars in my opinion. When it comes to, I think it's going to be a banger match. I would like Jada to win. I would like Blake to win. I do think Blake's going to win, just like I said. Push the feud through to Stand and Deliver. Blake goes over tonight. Well, I don't. Depends when you're watching this. It might be tonight, or it might have already happened, or tomorrow. But Blake Monroe goes over at Vengeance Day, and then Jada wins at Mania, and then Blake's gone. Jada moves forward, maybe into the title picture or the North American title picture. But I think it's going to be a banger match, but it's not going to be my match of the night. I think it's going to be good, probably second. But moving on, we've got an underground match, another stipulation that's going to be pure violence. We've got Lola Vice taking on Galani Jordan, and I'm excited for this. The underground matches are fun, and I think it does work with these two in a sense, especially the way Kalani was training with Shayna Baszler on Tuesday just gone. Lola Vice, she's got that submission game. She's got that kind of kickboxer to her. She throws those type of strikes in the match. So the whole underground vibe for me works personally. I do think Lola Vice is going to take it. I don't think they're too hot on Kalani like they once were. She was the inaugural North American Women's Champion as a babyface, and as a babyface, she was talented. You could see that in-ring skill, but gimmick-wise, there wasn't a gimmick. She just kind of had the whole, I don't know, this girl talcum powder maybe, threw it in the air, smiled, walked to the ring, had a match. She's a great wrestler, great talent, but the character wasn't there. As a heel, the character is there, so I wouldn't be surprised if she does win. But I do think Lola's more likely to go up to that main roster spot first. And I'm not saying, everyone in this card's going to go over to the main roster, so they're going to win and then lose at Stand and Deliver, because that'd be too predictable and obviously a bit silly if it happened in, 3 or 4 matches on this card. I do believe there is only 5 matches on this card. I could be wrong. I'm trying to count here, guys. Give me a second. Yeah, okay. There is 5 matches on this card. No Ethan Page match, which is a little bit sad. But hey ho, what can you do? I do think this will be a banger. I've got to put it on Lola to win. I think the feud's been great. It's been a good build up. Kalani, like I say, as the heel, works way better than she does as a face, and I think it just kind of suits her naturally more, which is weird because as a face, it did feel like it was very generic, but it also felt like, oh, this is clearly what she's suited for. She's kind of got the look of it. But then when she went over to being a heel, she won the TNA Knockouts Championship. It was like Actually, no. When she's got a gimmick like this and a character you can believe, and obviously that's the whole point of wrestling is to believe. Kalani makes you believe she's a heel, a bad person in a sense on screen, obviously. I'm sure in real life she's a lovely person. But yeah, I'm gonna go Lola to win this. I just think she's more likely to get the push at the moment, to get the rub. Will be a good match. I don't know why I'm going to say this, but not my match of the night. Moving on, we've got a title match in the first non-stipulation match. So I assume this might kick off the show or be planted between Tony D and Blake Monroe. If this is the order the card goes in, I've not done it in match order. I don't know if there is a match order. There might be. This might be it. I don't know, but I doubt they'd have three stips in a row and then two normal matches. It's probably stip, normal, stip, stip, normal. Even though I assume you already know what the matches are, but if not, up next is Izzy Dane putting the North American Championship on the line versus Tatum Paxley. They've got a feud. Tatum Paxley was kicked out of the little group going on. The name is on the tip of my tongue, but I can't quite remember it. So unless it's Sanity, I know it's not Sanity or Schism. That was Joe Gacy, and I believe Ava was in there, who's no longer in NXT. Stone has taken over, and he's doing a great job, in my opinion, as the general manager. We've seen this match before. The feud's not as interesting as it once was when it first occurred. I do think Izzy Dame is going to keep the title. She's very talented. I'm a fan of Izzy Dame personally. I'm not too big on Tatum Paxley, and I know she's a fan favorite, but personally for me, there's nothing there for me, in my opinion. And I think, that's just the beauty of wrestling. We've all got our own opinions. We all see it differently. We all get emotionally attached to wrestlers differently. But Izzy Dame, for me, I think she's a great talent. I believe the character. I believe she's a champion. I like the way she wins the matches. I like the moveset. She's great. Very talented. Could see her on the main roster. If I could picture her, I'd say like 2 years' time, maybe in that IC title, US title scene, which is kind of crazy to talk about. I think when you think about like women's wrestling, that there is two mid card titles in there now. Obviously, because when you're growing up, there's a lot of people that are even like, if you've been watching it since you're older than 15 and you've been watching it since you're a kid, you'll know it's still a bit like fresh and new. But also, they don't make them titles feel important whatsoever. Bar the IC title, I guess, just because of Becky, but that's about it. But this isn't the main roster. This is NXT. This is, in my opinion, the best weekly episodic wrestling show. Sorry, Dynamite, as a big AEW fan, but you wouldn't think I'm a big AEW fan. You'd think I'm a WWE Fed guy. I love both brands. I enjoy them both. No tribalism here on the Dropkick District. I'm going to go Izzy Dame to retain. Pretty simple. I think it'll be a shorter match. It's not my match of the night. Match of the night is up next, and it is going to be the main event, in my opinion. We've got Joe Hendry putting the NXT title on the line versus Ricky Strokes. Ricky Saints. As anyone that doesn't get the joke, it was on purpose. It was a joke. I didn't accidentally say Strokes into the Saints. Just want to clarify that for the people that may not know the whole Ricky Strokes thing. Joe Hendry won the title ladder match. It was a great ladder match, by the way. I'm happy Joe won the title. I feel like a lot of people think they didn't strike while the iron was hot, but he's still over. He's still a good guy. He's still a good wrestler. I do think he's not a great wrestler in a sense. I don't think he's going to bring you that 5-star banger match, even though I've said this will be my match of the night. I do think it'll be a very good match. Ricky Saints is unbelievably talented. I think he's going up to the main roster soon. And I don't want to rinse and repeat the same thing I've said twice already on this episode that they're gonna have him win and then him win and Ricky wins it back now, then Joe wins at standing and deliver, so Ricky goes up. I just think Ricky loses here because he dropped it to, I want to say, Oberfemi. He won it off Ober, and I think he dropped it to a returning Oberfemi, and then Ober vacated, and then Joe won the title in the ladder match two or 3 weeks ago. I do think Joe wins. He's still very early in his title reign. If he drops it to Ricky, Ricky could have just won the ladder match, but Ricky Saints for me, I think he's going to go to the main roster. He's definitely going to slide in a title picture, the mid card. Simple. I think a lot of guys from NXT, besides like your Femi, it seems very easy just to slide them in. And I also understand. No, I don't book a show. I've never ever run a wrestling company. I'm not sure how easy it actually is. It seems very easy as a fan to go, well, just do this, just book this. I booked it. I'm sure it's more difficult than that. I assume anyway. If it's not, then Some people are doing terrible, terrible jobs, but I assume it is very difficult. So much respect to those who do it correctly, because some people do make terrible decisions, like Road Dogg. Thank God he's gone from SmackDown for good now. But yeah, I'm going to go Joe Hendry to win this. I think if anyone's going to dethrone him, it's tough because I don't think there's a lot of people right now that are believable champions in the men's division. And that's like I said before, I think for me, a big thing on the men's division in NXT is there's not a lot of believable guys that you go, you know what, he's a champion. Like I think if you look back over the last 2 years in NXT, right, you had a big Femi title reign, believable as a champ. He was very hard to defeat. He could win a triple threat match. I mean, I remember that triple threat match with Josh Briggs and Dijak. Unbelievable. I think he was at Battleground. Unbelievable. You can't see it, but there's a signed Dijak card right behind. You can see it a little bit next to AJ Lee. A tiny card. It's pretty cool from Dijak. So thank you if you are watching, Donovan. But it was a great match. Oba had some great matches. Believable champion. Prior to that, you had the likes of Trick Willie. Again, believable champion. He's going to do big things on that main roster alongside a former believable champion, Carmelo Hayes. Bron Breakker. These guys are the guys that have gone up and then bang, they've rocked it. But they have had mid-card title reigns, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think if Oba did go into the IC title picture or US title picture, have a long dominant reign like Gunther did, then yeah, but another thing is you don't want to carbon copy stuff for me, okay? So I think a lot of people say, oh, Oba's a the Gunther like run, he should go and win the IC title, dominate, lose it at Mania or SummerSlam to, a bigger star like Sammy in a sense. I'm not saying Sammy should be over for the IC title, by the way, before people get on my case, because I know a lot of people dislike Sami Zayn. I am one of them, just his character, not his person. I think he makes some good points online and his beliefs. However, moving on from that, I just think carbon copying stuff seems like a good idea, but you have to be more creative because we know what wrestling fans are like. They will sit on Twitter and say, "Oh, Bafemi should have the same, push his gun that he should win the IC title, hold it for a year or so, drop it, and go and win the world title." But if they did do that, I guarantee those same people would be on Twitter, be on Instagram, YouTube, complaining and saying, "Oh, why have they done the same thing they did with Gunther? This is so unoriginal and boring. Oh my God, Triple H, worst booker alive." You know what I mean? I just think you don't have to the same way. He's already been presented as a beast. I don't remember Gunther's debut, I'll be honest, in the main roster. I believe it was after WrestleMania, like 4 years ago, maybe a few years ago. Anyway, he did mention it on the new Cody Rhodes podcast, but I'm forget. However, I do just think Oba comes on presented as a beast. He's probably going to go straight to the world title picture. He had enough time in NXT. You know, what I mean, Gunther was in NXT for 2 weeks. Oba, ran it through the Indies NXT UK, smashed it there. So for me, I just think Joe Hendry, safe option for now, probably keeps it after stand and deliver until someone steps up. And that's not someone like Sean Spears or Shiloh Hill or Josh Briggs. You know what I mean? I'm talking like even maybe a Keanu Carver, someone like that. Maybe even Dio Monix. But just I don't want someone like Tony D'Angelo. You know what I mean? I'd even take Ethan Page again, although I do think on Tuesday it was like his swan song from NXT. And I know this isn't NXT related, but just going to run onto it for the Ethan Page thing. I think it'd be cool if Danhausen doesn't go to Raw or SmackDown yet. He's Adam Pearce on the phone said, I don't want to deal with him. Danhausen appeared. We can only assume he's talking about him. I just think, Nick Aldis isn't going to want him either. He's going to bounce between shows. Maybe in 2 weeks' time, he could go to NXT, curse Ethan Page backstage, because you can imagine Ethan Page disrespecting him. He goes out, Ethan Page, you are cursed. Bang, pulls it out. Ethan loses, and then maybe on the same show, at the end of the show, he goes to Robert Stone. Like, the match finishes, cuts to backstage, knocks on the door, he goes, "Look, I'm not dealing with this. Ava treated me badly, forced me to have title match after title match, and now you've made me get cursed and lose by some freak. I'm out here." And that could even be maybe Danhausen's first feud on the main roster. And Ethan can go over, there's no problem, because we already know, like, if you know about Danhausen, you know he's not going to wrestle every week and do banger after banger, all right? He's probably going to wrestle every month, maybe every other month, but there's been nothing wrong with giving him a feud with Ethan Page on the main roster and having him lose. But I don't want to go too deep into some Danhausen stuff, because I am, Keinhausen is a fanhausen of Danhausen. That might be the cringiest thing I've ever said. But nonetheless, thank you for watching my NXT 2026 Vengeance Day predictions. Hope you all enjoy this show, and I might do a review. I might do a review. We're trying to upload more on this channel, so keep your eyes peeled. Do subscribe if you new, like, comment your predictions, link for my Twitter and the Dropkick District Twitter to follow all the new things. Uh, all in the description, as you know. Appreciate you watching. Goodbye.